Give us a story.
The story that I'm about to tell you is stranger than fiction, but it is a true story of the sheriff of Gallatin County, Hubbard Ferguson, in 1954. He was found in Eagle Creek, which is out in Sparta, on mid-June 1954. He went missing on a Friday. He went out to serve a warrant and did not return to the station. So there was a search party on that Sunday, and his body was found floating in Eagle Creek. He was decomposing with a gunshot wound and a 22-pound tie plate, a railroad tie plate, tied to him to weigh him down. And there were so many rumors about what happened to Hub. And that is what my play, Small Town Gossip, focuses on.
And so now where is this being performed at?
This is being performed at the No Theater. It is part of Serials, which is their kind of a one-act play festival that they do every year. Now it will be this coming Monday, the 16th, and then the following Monday on the 23rd. So I came to learn about the story because I have a family connection. My grandfather, Jimmy O'Connor, was the man who found his car abandoned on the road because my family's farm is out there on Parks Ridge in Sparta. And so it sparked this interest in me. I actually just somewhat recently discovered this story during the pandemic. You know, I spent a lot of time with my family talking and hearing some family stories, and I did an open records request with the Kentucky State Police who handled the case. So I have read it. They granted me access, and I've read through all the case files that they shared. You know, they were redacted. But I discovered that Jimmy and my great-grandfather, August, were questioned in the murder.
Okay.
Not named as people of interest or suspects. There was one suspect who, I don't know if I should name names here, and I did not in my play, just to protect the innocent or presumed innocent, because no one was ever found guilty or prosecuted in the matter. But yes, there was one suspect. My grandfather shared that he was hounded by the FBI. The FBI were involved in the case. And supposedly he did not like going to town because they were always after him, quote unquote.
Okay. So this is a case that hasn't been solved this day.
Correct.
And then obviously you mentioned like gossip. So obviously the stories swirling before and after are probably interesting to say the least on that. And so then you took this information and you turned this into a play.
Yes. I have a background in theater. I've written plays before. I thought that given the theatrical nature, right, the larger than life story that I'm telling really worked for a theatrical setting. So I'm exploring all the gossip. I heavily referred to not just the case files, but the archives from the Gallatin County Public Library, among others, just to see what people in town were talking about. I mentioned, my grandfather, Jimmy, his firsthand account. He passed away several years ago now. I've spoken to my grandmother on my mom's side, and she shared with me kind of what she thought happened, some of the gossip, the rumors that were going on about what happened to Hub.
And the research, so what did you learn, I guess, about him before? So, I mean, what was it like? What was going on at the time previous to his death?
He was a very interesting man. He was in his 60s when he passed. He was legally married up until a couple of years before he was murdered. However, he and his ex-wife did not live together for decades. She lived with their son, James, in Virginia, near the Washington, D.C. area. So I haven't gotten a lot of context as to, what that relationship was like. But he owned the farm next door to my family's farm out in Sparta, had a tenant there who did the farm work, and he was elected sheriff. He was in his second term. There was a time in between the 2 terms he served. So he was in his second term as sheriff, had recently been elected in 1953, I believe, the year before he was murdered, was elected to sheriff. And he was living in town in a residence hall. Mm-hmm. So not at his own farm, but lived center to town, which makes sense for the sheriff to be kind of in the center of the action.
Right,
right. And from the newspaper articles that I have read, he was doing a campaign to get people up on their taxes. There were a lot of folks who had fallen behind on their property taxes. So this could have been a motive. And that I do mention that and kind of explore that idea somewhat in the play.
Did you explore other motives?
Yes,
okay.
In fact. So, like I said, I changed names. I took some liberties with the story, but there were several other motives. One, there was a rumor that he was having an affair with a married woman. And this one, the family believes that he had stumbled upon a bootlegging operation in town, and that was clearly a motive. There was also a motive that perhaps some, quote, bigwigs in town were involved in his demise.
So it's just because there's just a vacuum of information, just stuff swirled, right? So people get creative and they come up with different theories, and some are more interesting than others, and which makes for something probably very entertaining to watch in a play form.
Yes, absolutely. One of the most off-base theories that I came up with, and it was in the paper here, was some folks thought it was a suicide.
It's a very elaborate...
Right.
A ruse.
Right. So in the play, we don't act it out, but we're talking through it. Okay, so he weighed himself down with a tie plate, then put a bullet to his head? Like, how would that work? And so we see that that's literally not possible physically to happen. There was also, because of the nature of his wounds, there was this deep laceration to his head. So, the autopsy, we'll get into that. But there was some speculation that maybe he was hatcheted, right? Hit in the head with a hatchet. So I explore that. I tie that into one of the characters and their motivation in the manner of his homicide. The autopsy did not come initially. He was initially buried at the cemetery here in town. They had his viewing here at Carlton. And then the Hamilton County coroner got involved, and they exhumed his body.
So why'd they get involved? Just things weren't adding up?
Right, because they brought in someone from the state police. Heilman was his name, and wanted to really get to the bottom of it because, this is a man of the law. He should have justice, and that's really why I wrote the play and really want to bring this to attention, because he should receive justice, right? So there was this push after the fact to try to get to the bottom of what happened to him. So they exhumed his body 3 times.
Oh, okay.
Not once, not twice, 3 times.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So I did pull, we depict the autopsy in the show as well. Obviously, it was determined that the manner of his death was a homicide. It was hard to say which was the fatal wound, but probably the shot to the head, that the tying down with the tie plate was meant to hide the body, right? Which kind of got my mind swirling about some other things. Like I said, I wrote a book called What's with Cincinnati, and we know that Northern Kentucky in particular was mobbed up. And this was, like concrete slippers swimming with the fishes, that they would, tie someone up, shoot them, and throw them in a body of water. This was the Newport nightgown. So that got me thinking, well, I wonder if the mob was involved here, right? That this was some larger operation than a personal vendetta.
So, in the end, during the time, they weren't able to, and no one was ever charged?
No one was ever charged. No one's ever been prosecuted. And to this day, the case is still open.
So in your play, if you can say, and I know you can only say so much, do you resolve it in the play or do you keep it open?
I actually keep it open.
Okay.
And there is a little bit of audience engagement at the end. People will get to vote for who they think the murderer was.
Okay.
Nice, that's fun.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't even, because of the format of the play, it's at Serials, which is at the No Theater. It is only a 15-minute play. It's over 2 nights, so a total of 30 minutes. So it's a 1-act play. I only get into a fraction of the theories. So I think there's maybe 5 theories that I get into. And yeah, I thought it would be fun just to take a little pulse check and see what the people think.
So when you did all your research, I guess did you get a kind of a better sense of you knowing the sheriff, or did you learn about any characters that you learned about when doing your research on different families and stuff like that?
I learned mostly about Hub from a conversation with my grandfather that I did not have personally. My cousin Amy had with him. One day she was visiting. She lives in Florida, has for most of her life. She was up here talking to him and her father and our other uncle, Pat. And that's how I learned about Hub. He and my great-grandfather, Oni, were close. They went to school together. So I learned that he was a pretty quiet guy and kept to himself. Of his physical characteristics, he was a big guy. So intimidating, right? Definitely had the look of an intimidating sheriff, but we know that maybe he was a little softer than that. Yes.
So I guess so you did a lot of research and you dug into filing FOIAs and getting requests and all that. What did you enjoy about the writing process on this, making this come alive?
I enjoyed, while staying true to the facts of the source material, taking some liberties and really playing up the drama of it all. There is at least one phone call because I learned that the sheriff had received some threatening phone calls and a threatening letter to the police station and to his residence. So that's another theory. But I really enjoyed to be able to take those liberties and, kind of play on the scenarios that we know were happening based on testimony of those who were interviewed, deposed in the situation, and just kind of running with it and letting my imagination go wild.
Yeah. So how many people are acting in this?
There are 4.
Wow.
4 actors. It is 2 women on the front porch breaking beans, and they're discussing these rumors. So it's Emma and Pauline, and those characters are named after my grandmothers. And then there is Hub and the man.
Okay.
And the man plays many characters, right? As we go through all the theories, who could be responsible. So he plays, the supposed bootlegger, the jealous husband, a town ne'er-do-well. And we use just a simple prop or costume piece to differentiate the characters.
So after the 3 investigations, the only thing that they really came away with knowing is that it was a homicide.
It was a homicide.
That was the only kind
It
of...
was not a suicide.
That was the only thing that kind of came away from that after that much.
Truly.
Huh.
I read, and this is me jumping to conclusions, we know that he was not a smoker.
Okay.
He had a corncob pipe that he would smoke, but he did not smoke cigarettes. However, in the evidence report, in the case files, there was a pack of cigarettes in his car. Because his car was found abandoned. Like I said, my grandfather found his car, reported it to the police when they discovered that he was missing. So, yes, and then the warrant. So that's a whole nother theory, right? Somebody saying,
Did he ever serve it? The one he was going out to serve?
no,
Okay.
because it was in his glove box. And his service weapon was missing as well.
So you went through the old newspapers.
I did.
What did you think about going through those old newspapers?
That journalism has changed.
Yeah, yeah.
And that some of the reporting was maybe reporting less on the facts and more on the feelings.
Oh, I mean, I imagine it would have been really intense. I mean, just the interconnection of this community. And it was
Right.
even smaller back then. It was half the size it was for population then. So, and it was more insular. I mean, 71 didn't come through yet. And so,
It's more family and friends.
yeah.
And everybody knows everybody. And so you're pointing your finger at family and friends. So have you talked to anybody in Hub's family in terms of like how they feel about this and where
That's a
it
great
was?
question. And I've been in contact with Sandy, his granddaughter, via Facebook. She has a Facebook page in his honor. And I reached out to her. I said I was doing some research. I hadn't received the files yet, but that I had made a request. And I told her kind of about, my grandmother telling my mom something. And I'm wondering if my grandfather was more involved than we know. And she's like, well, I don't know why he would be. I have an idea why he might be. There is... Again, rumors, gossip that maybe my family was involved in said bootlegging.
So how does that feel? Like thinking about that and looking into your family's past.
It feels exciting. Not that I want anyone in my family to be responsible for a crime,
Right.
but it makes that connection closer. It maybe is not entirely surprising. We'll leave it at that.
All right.
Given the personalities involved, maybe
Yeah.
not
So
entirely surprising.
So you're processing things too, also
Yeah.
with
Of
the
course.
family. Yeah.
Of course. Of
and
course.
stuff like that. So.
Yeah. I did recently did like an ancestry DNA test, which I know is a concern for some people because they don't want their DNA in some public record. And I said, well, if it helps to solve some sort of crime, go right ahead. Why not? If it were this one, that'd be even better.
Well, I'm intrigued. I mean, I think just hearing about it, it sounds like it has all the things are a great story, and it sounds like it's going to be a great show. So I'm intrigued for sure. I want to know what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be fun. It'd be fun to watch.
Yeah.
So, anything else? Anything else that I should have asked that I did not? Anything I omitted?
Would you like to hear a clip?
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the intro.
In rural Gallatin County, Kentucky, there's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Hubbard Ferguson, but everyone just calls him Hub. The strong, silent type, our sheriff is intimidating in looks only. He has a quiet disposition you wouldn't mistake for weakness. The lights come up on our hero alone in his bachelor pad in the town center. We see him pacing, uniform shirt unbuttoned, smoking his corncob pipe. His hair is mussed, like he's been running his hands through it. The phone rings. Once. Twice. After 3 times, Hub finally picks up the phone.
And that is from
That's the intro.
intro from the play. I like the
Nice.
radio appeal.
Yeah.
That's a very nice.
It's very cool.
It plays into the period of the piece.
Well, and then in a theater setting too, dark room, and your focus, getting ready for what's next. That's awesome.
It is.
So, would you ever, like in a perfect world, you had the opportunity, would you expand this into more than one act? I mean, sounds like you have more than enough material to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My initial thought was perhaps to submit this to the Fringe Festival. That's an annual event here in Cincinnati. And I didn't get around to it because life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard being a working parent. So this opportunity came, and I think it fit the format and kind of it served as a jumping off point. I definitely feel like, yes, there is enough material to expand into a full play. in and of itself, and that's something I'm exploring and actively working on. Thanks.
Well, what a creative idea.
Thanks. I like it.
Hey, well,
Yeah, congratulations on it and best of luck.
Thank you.
we
I
wanna hear more.
appreciate that.
all right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.